Don't even go there. Not today. Please. Not today. I wasn't expecting you to mic and bring it.
All right. Session up.
I'm running 20 minutes late and there's no waiting. 50 seconds.
Wait, so you got it?
Yeah.
Oh, then you're on.
It should be noted. It's working. Oh, is it on?
Yeah.
I just hear they can hear us talking right now.
Can you hear me talking?
Joseph is my guest.
Now you.
Yeah.
This is very nice. Hi. Hi. Certainly, you'll see something.
My sister.
So nice to meet you. Yeah, exactly.
I'm dating that.
That works that way. Correct. We got 3 minutes. We got 3 minutes. Your plan. Yeah.
We're live.
Time comes.
Nice to see you. I'm good. And you?
Each one, you're working. Each one is the same math. We'll open it up.
Yeah.
I'm like wondering how you pay on it.
I just figured.
But it's too terrible.
So I actually asked DJ. Yeah, and my other job is next time. So I go and there.
Where were you? I know.
So many English sources. Okay, great. Well, I was sure there's so much to have.
Yeah, I mean, we also have people around there.
So it's like, they have tracking for me for 3 hours.
Should we move on?
That's fine. I mean, it's the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, it's fine.
We have one more. Yeah, turn off the studio, turn off.
What is
Turn off.
Turn off? This feels right.
Okay, let's, Ava, Actually, I said it was.
Should we get going? If you close it like that, then people just sleep.
Great. Before we begin tonight's program, we would be remiss if we didn't mark the great loss we suffered today with the death of Shimon Peres. And as the funeral has taken place, we want to honor his memory with a moment of silence. So if you could all please rise and stand up for a moment. Please be seated. Welcome, family, friends, teachers, fellow Musmachim. I want to thank you all for coming, and especially for Rav Landis for flying in from Israel to celebrate this evening. I'm extremely grateful that tonight we are continuing the celebration which began in Israel in June. I also want to give special thanks to Western Synagogue, the Machon Hadar, and their faculty for welcoming us and allowing us to use their space for our celebration. It is particularly meaningful for me to have the celebration here after having spent 2 years engaged in rigorous and meaningful Torah study. Additionally, many of Rav Landis' students are deeply involved with Hadar, which is no surprise since both are committed to Torah that is relevant to our lives and making positive change in the world. At this moment, I ask that my fellow Musmachim, both those receiving Tudot today and those who received them in Israel, to please stand. And given that we are quickly approaching the end of Elul, I want to begin our evening by speaking about Tshuva. And Rav Landis, forgive me, but I'm also going to speak about you, even though you asked us not to, which just gives me another reason to do Tshuva. For those of us who have not studied with Rav Landis, I found his shiur to be reminiscent of a rabbinic and particularly Babylonian yeshiva. He and his students are dedicated to learning. The Torah is real, practical, and relevant. And the atmosphere is also fairly combative. The Talmud provides numerous examples of the combative nature of the Babylonian yeshiva. One common image is that of the rabbis waging the war of Torah. In Masechet Sanhedrin, the Talmud teaches that those who possess bundles of Mishnah are the leaders in the war of Torah. Studying Torah is not relaxing or for the faint of heart. It is a battle that must be waged. But this battle is not only with the text, but with colleagues and students. Again, in Masechet Sanhedrin, King David is depicted as mighty, not because of his military prowess, but because he knows how to question and how to respond. Additionally, the debates in the rabbinic academies are so intense that the Talmud in Masechet Chulin describes sparks flying from the mouth of one sage into the mouth of another. My own personal experience in Rav Landis' class, and I think for many of his students, this is similar and reminiscent of the Babylonian yeshiva. I was often pushed, cold called, and expected to have adequate, perhaps sharp answers and insight into whatever subject or Gemara we were learning. Rav Landis did not coddle me. And one recent example of his particularly Babylonian temperament came in the form of an email he sent to all of his Musmachim. Dear rabbis, I hope your preparations for the Yamim Noraim are proceeding as they should. If not, contact me, and I will attempt to awaken the fear of the Ribono Shel Olam. I'm sorry about that. Now, I think this combative style serves two purposes. First, Rabbi Landis wanted and wants to make sure that we never stop pushing ourselves. However much we think we know, however brilliant we find our analysis, however righteous we think we are, we can always do better. And of course, he's right. There's always room for self-improvement. However, I believe this stance serves another purpose and begins from a place of real humility. Landis pushes his students because he wants us to push him back. It is through his humility that Rav Landis is saying, help me learn, help me grow. Rav Landis models an openness to who he is, a human being prepared to learn new answers, and he shares this with us. He is aware that we all have room to learn from everyone we encounter, and he demonstrates that to us by encouraging and expecting his students to challenge his questions and his assumptions. Perhaps the most famous example of this attitude in the Talmud is after Reish Lakish dies. His chavruta Rabbi Yochanan is distraught because he no longer has a colleague who will force him to grow. This openness with oneself, with the acknowledgement that we need others to help us grow, reveals an important path for how we can do tshuva. In Vayikra, the Torah says, Ki bayom hazeh yichaper aleichem lataher etchem mikol chatoteichem lifnei Hashem titaru. That on Yom Kippur, we will come before God to purify ourselves. The Pachad Yitzchak points out the subtle difference in the expression before God on Yom Kippur from the other occurrences in the Torah. Generally, the expression before God refers to a specific location, but on Yom Kippur, the phrase Lifnei Hashem Titaru, it does not. He therefore postulates that it must refer to a specific place in the soul. There is no place in the world that we can go in order to purify ourselves. We must look inward at ourselves, ready to see the good with the bad, and acknowledge that not only is change possible, but desirable. However, we can't acknowledge this without acknowledging who we really are. And for this monumental task, we often need, as the prophet said, a little help from our friends. It is with this in mind that the Pachad Yitzchak points out that Lifnei Hashem is only used when referring to collective worship. While on Yom Kippur, we are filled with introspection and searching for how we can address our own shortcomings, we must do this together. We acknowledge that we need our family, friends, and colleagues to help us and stand with us as we strive to do tshuva. I hope that as we approach the Yamim Noraim, we don't get caught up or despair in our own introspection and desire for change. I hope that this year, as we stand before the divine, we recognize that we do this together and that our relationships be a source of strength for us in the coming year. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
And now it is my privilege to invite my friend and chavruta, Rabbi Matthew Goldstone, to speak.
We read in Mishlei, the book of Proverbs, Lo yu'ilu otzarot resha, utzedakah tatzil mimavet. Ill-gotten wealth is of no avail, but tzedakah saves from death. What is this death from which tzedakah rescues us? The Midrash on Proverbs suggests that one who gives tzedakah is saved from an unusual death, mimita mishuna. Going a step further, the Bavli preserves tradition in the name of Shmuel that tzedakah not only prevents an unusual end, but saves from death itself. V'lo mimita mishuna ela mimita atzma. Going even a step further, and offering a different twist, the Yerushalmi in Masechet Peah, the tractate I studied with Rabbi Landis and Pardes, suggests that this verse from Proverbs refers to the afterlife, that one will not expire from the world to come. Shelo yamut le'olam haba. But what does all of this mean? How does tzedakah save from death and establish one's place in the world to come? Turning to Rambam's well-known discussion of 8 levels of tzedakah, perhaps we find an answer, or at least a different way of thinking about what this might mean. Just as the mitzvah of tzedakah appears in the Yerushalmi and Seder Zeba'im, so too Maimonides includes his discussion of tzedakah under this heading in Mishnah Torah, where towards the end of his chapters on matanot aniyim, gifts for the poor, Rambam describes the highest level of tzedakah. Ma'ala gedola she'en lemala mimena zeh hamachazik biyad Yisrael shemach v'noten lo matana o halva'a o oseh imo shutafut o mamtzi lo melacha kedei lachazek et yado ad shelo yitztarech lebriot lishol. The highest level, of which there is none higher than it, is the one who strengthens the hand of a Jew who has become destitute, giving him a gift, or a loan, or joining together in a partnership, or creating work for him, so that he does not need to rely on others for his basic sustenance. Viewing Rambam's peak of tzedakah in light of the rabbinic interpretations of our verse from Proverbs, we find some possible answers to our questions. Empowering a poor person, providing him or her with the means towards self-sufficiency, has the potential to save them from death. But the benefit's not for them alone. According to the Yerushalmi, the giver is also saved in the world to come. By saving another, one ensures their own place in the world to come. But the Bavli also suggested that tzedakah saves the giver from death in this world. Perhaps, to opt for one interpretation, this is the assurance of life in this world in the sense that one will live on in this world through the other they have saved. The giver of tzedakah establishes a legacy. They live on through the good they have done for the other and through the other's future generations. And as that poor person, now made self-sufficient, goes on to help others, they extend the tzedakah granted to them from the original giver, now on to others. My learning towards smicha has similarly been a path towards self-sufficiency. Without the ability to read and understand traditional sources, I was forced to rely on others for halachic information and for psak. Unable to make my own halachic decisions, I began to learn, to study, with many teachers who provided me not with answers, but with tools. The tools to ask and answer my own questions. The gift of self-reliance for most of my halachic queries. My teachers have thus performed a great act of tzedakah in this sense of moving me towards self-sufficiency. And now I take on that role for others. As one who spent a significant amount of time learning and will hopefully continue to do so in the future, my work, my teaching, is not to give psak, not to render a simple halachic answer, but to equip others with the skills, the tools, and the sources to think about questions for themselves. Just as my teachers have done for me, so too I strive to grant others the gift of self-sufficiency. Whether teaching introductory classes on living a Jewish life or Talmud to rabbinical students, as a rabbi, I strive to give others access to Judaism, its sources and traditions, in ways that they did not previously have. Now, this is all one way in which I strive to perform tzedakah. But of course, tzedakah alone is insufficient. As my esteemed colleagues will speak about, the acts of tshuva, tefillah, and Torah, among other things, are also essential to removing the roa gezerah, the negative side of our decree for the year to come. And as we approach this season of judgment and the start of a new year, may our acts of tshuva, tefillah, Torah, and tzedakah all merit us life in this world and in the world to come. Shana Tova. And I'd like to welcome up Rav Aviva, who's also part of our cohort, Musmachim, and who also happens to be a teacher here at Yeshivat Hadar, who's very graciously hosting us this evening. So, Rav Aviva.
Thank you so much. I had the honor of also being in Israel in June, in the sort of part one, or no, it's not really part one, a part of this process. And so I hope that, I know our group tonight is small and intimate, but I hope also everyone feels a part of this larger celebration that's really been happening all over the world. Also, I wanted to thank you all for your graciousness and patience in our beautiful vision here of shared space in West End and around our evening, which, I don't know.
Sounds like a budget committee.
Okay. So I wanted to share a story from the Midrash Vayikra Rabbah. And it's actually a story of a teacher and a student on a tiyul, on a walk together. And this has particular meaning for me because actually one of our first conversations 10 years ago, probably right around now, was at Pardes. I was studying in the Kola at Pardes. And there was a tiyul in the beginning of the year, and Rav Landis, Rosh Hashiva, came along on this tiyul. And we had a chavrutah and conversation that really stuck with me. Okay, so I just want to share this story. Rabbi Yochanan was going on a walk with Mataya from Tiberia to Zipporim, in the north of Israel. And Rabbi Chia bar Abba was literally Mesamechle, was escorting him, going on a walk together. And they reached a particular field. And Rabbi Yochanan says, that field, that was my field. But I sold it in order to merit Torah study. Then they got to a vineyard. And Rabbi Yochanan said, that used to be my vineyard. But I sold it in order to merit in Torah study. Then they got to an olive orchard. And as you can imagine, Rabbi Yochanan says, that used to be my olive orchard, but I sold it in order to merit in learning Torah. Rabbi Chia, who's with him, starts to cry. Rabbi Yochanan says, well, why are you crying? And he says, because you left nothing for yourself for your old age. Basically sold off all of your assets in order to study Torah. And Rabbi Yochanan responds, what is this? You think this is so bad? You think this is a terrible thing that I did? I got the best deal in the world. I sold something that was created in just 6 days. But I acquired something that it took 40 days for Moshe to learn, right? For that to really enter the world and be created in the world. Got the better end of the deal. And now, at the end of Rabbi Yochanan's life, what people said about him was they quoted the verse from Shir Shirim, from Song of Songs, if one gives all of their fortune with love, and because Rabbi Yochanan loved the Torah so much. Now, I wanted to bring this for a number of reasons. One, because of that setting of being on Tiyul, but also because I think if there's one thing, and obviously there's many more than one thing, but one thing that I've really learned from Rav Landy's and sort of derech limud and being with this cohort at Pardes and beyond is to be madly in love with Torah. And I think it's sort of both. It's the madly and in love that you see in this story that, like, oh, of course, right, of course, right, it's worth everything. It's worth anything, and there's sort of no question about what you would do for Torah. Right, and I think sort of concretely some of the images that I have most strongly in my mind from Pardes and Rav Lenny's as Rosh Yeshiva in my time there is that I think in many ways there's sort of in many parts of this story, there's the part of trying to figure out how to fund Torah study. Like, we just get a glimpse of that and then know that there's just a glimpse of sort of the sacrifices that go into that. But it's really the times of seeing our lens in the Beit Midrash and how much love learning there, and it's something that I think about often is sort of very makpid about not answering your cell phone in the Beit Midrash. It's like, sorry. Get a phone call, you leave the Beit Midrash, you take the call. And I think for me, that's just part of like, when you're in the Beit Midrash, you're in the Beit Midrash. When you're learning, you're learning. And that has to kind of fill the entire space and fill your time there. And you have to sort of think about how to create that, because it's actually, Rabbi Chia doesn't get it. It's something that you have to actually figure out how to express and communicate and live out that kind of supreme value of Torah and how fragile that is. But I think another piece of this story is the way it conceives of time. I know we sort of know through our understanding of science, etc., that actually the world as we know it, certainly the people in it, this wasn't really just a 6-day process. Right, but even so, I think the metaphor, it still works, because I think part of what's happening in this story is that time, the 40 days that Moshe spent on Har Sinai, represents much more than 40 days. And I think in some ways, like, the time that we spend learning Torah, certainly I think the time as all of us as Musmachim would say the time that we've gotten to spend with you learning Torah and the time we spend with each other learning Torah. And that time really takes up much more of our lives than the kind of quantifiable time that it seems to be. And I sort of want to express how much we all really appreciate those moments that we've had learning with each other and getting to learn with you in the Beit Midrash or on a random tiyul or being at your house helping to cook for Pesach or whatever Chag HaMechanim. And that time, it really sticks with us and it really grows and kind of has the ability to reframe the whole way that we're seeing a particular thing in our lives or the world more broadly. Now, the verse in the Song of Songs in Shir Shirim, it doesn't actually end. Imitin ish kohan beito. It ends bozia bozia. Right? Others might criticize this person who gives all of their money out of being madly in love with Torah. Right? And this is what happens in the story. Like, what are you doing? You're crazy. And I think to me part of the power of our learning and really as a role model also is, right, having the courage to do things that others might criticize and how delicate that is, but also how powerful and important that can be in our world as it is right now. So I want to really say thank you on behalf of all of us, and also kind of take this story as a charge to all of us as Musmachim that, like, we are the field, we are the vineyard, and we are the olive orchard, and it's sort of we get this great opportunity to make good on this investment and make our own investments. And it's a great
My name is Avi Spodek. I'm in the field of education, so on that, there's definitely the financial sacrifice at times. I began my career as a Jewish educator over 15 years ago. And in the lead up to my very first day of teaching, I was assigned a duty that I felt was somewhat at odds with my own personal Jewish practice. Troubled by this, I spoke with a colleague of similar ilk, and he explained to me that there was really no tension because as an educator, my commitment was to ensure that students learn. L'shem chinuch, he explained, obligated me to meet my students where they were, even if this was at odds with my own beliefs. At the time, I felt reassured, but in the 15 years since that moment, I've actually struggled with this concept of l'shem chinuch, and here's why. This term l'shem chinuch actually originates from Masechet Sukkah. In the discussion about who is obligated in the taking of the lulav and etrog, in the final statement of the fourth parak of the Mishnah Sukkah, Tana teaches that a minor, normally not obligated in mitzvot, a minor who knows how to shake the lulav is obligated regarding the lulav. In other words, if he is prepared, if he knows already to shake the lulav, that he knows that he needs to do it, it has to be a kosher lulav, it has to be a kosher etrog. Over there in the Mishnah Torah, in Hilchat Shofar Sukkah and Lulav, in Perek Zayin, Halacha Yutet 719, Rambam states that the reason for this obligation is kedei lechancho b'mitzvot, in order to educate him in the commandments. And that's actually where we derive the term l'shem chinuch. The basic reading of this text actually reveals that l'shem chinuch is actually less permissive than my colleague led on. In fact, it's quite restrictive, and it doesn't really allow a deviation from halakha. So as an educator, I want to meet my students where they are. The text limits my ability to do so. Or does it? I'm currently a principal in a Jewish day school. While I miss the classroom a lot, my position has actually allowed me to take a step back, to see the bigger picture involved in Jewish education. And it's here where I think I've found the true intent of L'Shem Chinuch. Both the Gemara and the Rambam were constructing communities that revolved around the adherence and practice of mitzvot. As such, this was the ideal of their Jewish education. It was not for the student to understand fully, rather the student had to be inducted in the proper act of the mitzvah. It is intentionally limited. If L'Shem Chinuch is a process to create the model of what we want, then L'Shem Chinuch of the Gemara and the Rambam is limited to the purview of halachic observance. What if there is already a community in place? Or what if what binds the community is not halacha, but something else? What does L'Shem Chinuch mean for that community? Might it look different? My current school is a K through 8 Jewish day school that defines itself as modern Orthodox. It's a wonderful school, terrific students. And while there are a lot of modern Orthodox people who send their kids to this school, I would more accurately describe our families as Orthodox modern. They're very serious about their Judaism, but are more fully engaged in the modern world than the Jewish one. What does L'Shem Chinuch look like in this school? Many of my colleagues argue for the community of the Rambam. But I posit that in this model, what is needed is not the creation of a community, but the enhancement of it. We're already united, and what unites us is a common language. My challenge is to ensure that the community remains unified into the future by producing students who are literate in this common language. And for me, it is through the learning of Torah that we create a common language. My goal, my vision, is not of creating community, but of maintaining and enhancing it by enabling everyone to be able to speak and use that language, to understand its concepts, and to promote its values. Some may become so fluent in this language that they will make it a profession. Others may not, but everyone will speak it. The truth is, this idea is not my own chiddush. I didn't figure this out completely through intellectual rigor. I was blessed to spend 2 years learning with my Rebbe in Israel, and I've continued to learn with him since through modern technology. It is his approach that I've adopted as my own because I've seen its success in action. As Talmidim Musmachim of Rav we're unique in that the notion of inclusion does not mean dumbing down, and expertise does not mean elitism. There are no outsiders and insiders in our community. Our goal is to raise the madriga of everyone with whom we come into contact and to give them access to their traditions so that they can soar to whatever heights they may and still see themselves as part of the Jewish people. Rav thank you for this tremendous support.
It's weird not to be able to say Shabbat Shalom before. Hold it. Oh, no, I'm gonna need to go drinking it. Everybody talked about love. I had an intro to this by Torah. I'm gonna throw it out. We talked about love. Rav Landy's being madly in love with Torah. All these people in this room who are madly in love with Torah. And I think about love a lot. I think about love as a single guy in Manhattan, in Brooklyn. I think about love in the context of my students, in the context of my friends. And I think about love in the context of humanity. And I think that there's something really interesting about how much I think about love, in that it is something that we all think of. We kind of have put up love as this paradigm of happiness. He who is married has love, right? Once I find her, once my friend finds her, once we all find him or her, right, that's when we will be happy. I want to ask us this question. Like, why is this the paradigm? Why do we equate this spousal relationship, this love relationship with happiness? What's going on there? There has to be something deeper. There's a line from the Gemara in Yevamot. I've heard it many times, but I've never really found it compelling. and I've always found it troubling. Amar Rabbi Tanchum, Amar Rabbi Chanilai. Rabbi Tanchum says in the name of Rabbi Chanilai, Kol Adam she'ein lo isha, any man who does not have a wife, Sharoi v'lo simcha, he lives without happiness, v'lo bracha, without blessing, v'lo tova, without goodness. What do you mean? What do you mean he doesn't have all these things? I live in my life and I continually experience blessing, goodness, and I definitely experience love. What does this mean? All the more so, how many weddings have we been to and we just scream about them and their happiness for the course of an entire night? How many Shabbatot have we sat there in Lechadodi and talked about this paradigm of love, of Chatan and Kala, bride and groom, as the thing that we're actually accepting in Shabbat, like to be Mekabel Pnei Hashem, to be receiving God's face is like receiving your wife's face for the first time in the act of loving them. This is what we've done so many times. Rav Shlomo Wolbe, who I would say is my second Rebbe after Rabbi Landis, in his book, The Alei Shor, speaks very clearly about this happiness. He writes, and the quote is too long to just do in Hebrew, so bear with me. Heavens and the earth, man and woman, body and soul, they are all in opposition. But they don't always remain in opposition. There is, in those moments where they influence each other for the good, and there are those that completely unite. There is in every single relationship or connection of two opposites, there is simcha. There is happiness. And this is the essence of happiness, he writes. That in every place where happiness is found, there is a connection. There is some sort of unification. And I couldn't give a Dvar Torah without actually citing a secular scholar. Erich Fromm, in his book, The Art of Loving, writes, man is the only animal for whom his own existence is a problem which he has to solve. This problem, says Fromm, is the problem of separateness. To Fromm, this comes from our biggest gift as humans, our awareness that we exist. We are, as he says, life being aware of itself. This is part of what makes the human experience so precious, but it also leads to this problem of separateness. If you realize you exist as a distinct person, as a distinct individual, as a thing apart, then you can also feel and experience separateness, and therefore feel and experience existential loneliness. I can sit with a person and them not fully knowing who I am. And me desiring to tell them, I teach Torah, and I teach meditation, and I am in this endeavor of doing good. My desire, and like at my very core, to tell my physical therapist everything about me. I don't exist in a social environment with them. I don't, but I care so much about that. Because I experience this existential loneliness, because I experience this separateness. But love, Fromm writes, love is the only sane and satisfactory answer to the problem of human existence. So maybe the happiness that the rabbis are referring to is the happiness over having overcome this problem, this challenge of our separateness. That love is inherently a much more complex and meaningful answer to our separateness and loneliness than so many of our fruitless attempts to find it. Rav Wolbe, in his commentary on the phrase Kol Adam she'ein lo isha sharoi v'lo simcha, every man who does not have a wife lives without happiness, writes that this is because man without marriage has no one with whom he can meet up, with whom he can unite. And without that hitachdut, without that unification, there cannot really be that ultimate happiness. Yes, I experience happiness in my day-to-day. Yes, I experience happiness in this moment right now. Yes, I experience happiness with my students. But real happiness, existential happiness, that comes through hitachdut. Back to Fromm. Fromm, in his book, he explores love in all its aspects. In his consideration of the love of God, he developed a theory about 4 different historical depictions of God and the different sorts of love, each of them embodied. The 4th stage, in Fromm's view, the highest evolution of the quote-unquote God concept, occurs when people see God as everything. as reality, as existence. In this stage, you love God by loving existence, by loving all God's creatures and manifestations. This love, I believe, is much grander and significantly more accessible than any romantic love. Look to our tefillah. Look to our tefillah to underscore this point. Our central text through which we connect with God is centered around love for God, not around belief in God, which it has, small amounts of, but it's centered around the love of God. And for his being the constant force sustaining our existence. Think Ahavara Ba'ahavtanu. Think Ve'ahavta. Think Yoser Or. Think Ma'ariv Aravim. Think Koneh HaKol. Think the God that creates everything. The Alei Shor writes, the happiness of the mitzvah of performing a commanded act is the happiness of man connecting with his creator through action. As Fromm writes, again, love is the only sane and satisfactory answer to the problem of human existence. Maybe the love of God provides the same answer to our separateness as the love in human relationships. Maybe that is why it is stressed so much in our tefillah, because belief alone doesn't solve the problem of our separateness from right to left. Love of God, on the other hand, is the ultimate solution. It is unification with everything and everyone, the act of unification finding its foothold in the act of tefillah. The Rambam writes, what is the way that we should love God? We should love him with an overwhelming and unlimited love until our soul becomes permanently bound in the love of God. Bound, dveikut. Like one who is lovesick and cannot take his mind off the woman he loves, but always thinks of her when lying down or rising up, when eating or drinking. I've never in my tefillah approached God with a beating heart in the same way I approach a girl on the first date. Even greater, the Rambam writes, even greater than this should be the love of God in the hearts of those who love him. Thinking about him constantly, as he commanded us, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, with all thy soul. Loving God through the act of prayer is the preparation for loving God in the act of life. So, maybe just like with our human relationships, despite all the challenges that come with our relationship with God and being an observant Jew, despite all the crazy things we do, that is why prayer is the pinnacle of the Jewish experience, the closest thing we have to uniting with God in our daily lives. Maybe we still cling to faith and to God and to prayer because with the love of God, we are always more than just life aware of itself. Being in Yashir, it was witnessing love. I can't tell you how many people I've told what's it like to be in Rabbi Yashir. He loves Torah. Like, he loves Torah. Screams Torah because he loves Torah. That is unbelievable. And that love extending itself in this act of 20, is it 20 or 21? 21. Of 21 musmachim. That's a boundless love. That's a love that has no limits. That's a love that tries to extend itself to all of creation and to all of existence. I cannot be more in awe. Rev Landy's wanted us to sing any good, and we will do that. I hope it explains itself.
Shaman again.
So, very generous. This is the third, and everyone who finished tonight will have received smicha personally. I have to say that in the area of that area of life that these are the happiest days of my life. I've never been happy. And I can say that because my family was also quite involved, so it's not outside that. It's very important to say that. So I have too much Torah, not in general, but I have too much Torah to so I'll cut it. I just talk the truth instead. A lot of vertlach. But this parsha, I hope I have the right parsha. You guys are no longer behind, right? You caught up? Ten nisavim hayam kolchem. Before talking to Viva, who's still there. Yeah, had to leave a little early, and to the rest. Ten nisavim hayam kolchem l'fnei Hashem Elokechem, Roshechem, Tikechem, Tivechem, Tivechem, Kol Ish Yisrael, and goes on, Tapchem, Shechem. Everyone is standing. And actually, this pasuk actually was a reproach to me several years ago. Sometimes it works out. In terms of how the parsha works, sometimes it happens. Several years ago, my plan was to help raise the next generation of Talmidei Chachamim. And my plan was to do it very quietly. Actually, in many ways, it was very successful being quiet. And the Targum, Jonas, it said, I tell you something about Yom, which means that you're standing today. And actually, as Sufim go on, you stand because it's a bris, by the way. That's why people stand at a bris. Actually, people live on the Litvax is to stand at a wedding, because the wedding's also a bris. As a rabbi, I like everyone sitting down so you can control it. The Litvish minhag is to actually say, you stand for a bris. Something significant. This is an evening of a bris. This is, you've all expressed yourself in this manner. You're attending Tzaddik, so you're standing. Targum Yosef, he says, Omar Moshe, what's that? Adnavia. Moshe the Davi says, Lo v'tumra ana maseh b'cham. Can't do this. I mean, he has words here. You can't do this Seder. You can't do this hiddenly. If you have a bris, the bris is supposed to be public. The bris is supposed to be for between Am and Edah. And the reason why, for me, there was a reluctance was Israel. They made a big deal because a large number of women were receiving smicha, and that was one part of the heresy, right? But the other part of the heresy, which was shared, is I knew that the Hasmachah were very unusual, individual people who will take Torah into the places that Torah hasn't gone before. And a challenge to me as well. Easier to do it in a very But you can't validate, and you can't accept the bris. You can't be part of the bris. And if I'm part of this link of the Masorah from the Gedolei Torah that I learned from, and to you, this really has to be done in a very public and prideful and very proud, and in a very public way. And then the kli, I'm a vessel. I'm a vessel for that. I'm a vessel. And I had a Rosh Yeshiva who's the European Rosh Yeshiva who never say the word vessel. The kli was a very important word, so it was always a vessel. It took a long time to figure out. To be a vessel or a vessel is not so simple. It's not so simple. And I actually think that very important. Several colleagues here today. I think we're vessels. Because I think that actually we're part of we're transitional figures. Something else is happening. It may be successful. It might not be successful. It may be successful. And if we're not successful, then it's going to be a triple thing to rethink through Torah. We can put it together by saying one more point. Several of the Talmidot came to me in July, 2 weeks before our ceremony, and wanted to know what was the red lines do I have? What red line? What are the secret red lines? I said, you're all Talmidei Chachamim, become Talmidei. You're all showing misses. What's the problem? No, but what are those things that we're signing on right now? I have no red lines. There is one red line. The red line is Torah study. That will inspire you to do those things that I haven't figured out myself, and that we haven't figured out to allow Torah to go places that hasn't gone before. It will give you the courage, and it will be its own restraint in the areas that you need to have restraint. The continued application of Torah will do that for you. It can't be the tumor. It can't be hidden. It has to be public, the verse, and what you do has to be transparent, and it has to be honest, it has to be full of pride, and it has to be full of stolz, and it has to be full of sweetness. Not my word, but sweetness too. Sweetness too. And that has to be done, and you're the ones to do it. So I want to take my opportunity, which has been my one. So that's the only red line. Rabbi Aryeh Strakovsky, who spoke at the first event, reminded us, and I remind me of what the Rav said in Shir, which was Rabbi Soloveitchik said in Shir, said many times privately. By the way, he was involved very much many things, but to his Talmidim, I never heard. And I was in his house. I was in his house a lot. I was actually his dorm counselor. He had a house in Shiv University. I mean, he had an apartment, and I was head of the dorms, and I was his dorm counselor. It wasn't so simple. I had to make sure he got to sleep. other things like that. But the only thing we ever heard from him was to say is, if you don't learn, he said, I'll come to your home, and I'll take the smicha off the wall. So if you don't learn, you'll have a knock on the door some night. Put out my hand. You yourself will go, because you all believe in choice and all that sort of thing, and you will make the proper decision. You'll have the smicha back. That's the only red line. Let me take this opportunity to talk about your avoda, each one of you. I know it's my take, but I know something about you. Each one of you has a unique avoda, although almost in every case it's shared by everyone else. So let's see, I want to talk to you. I have a lot of C's like this. Your incredible curiosity and learning. Terrific curiosity. How does this work? What does this actually mean? Why does this contradict what could possibly be the answer? And your ability to formulate another C word. The question, the Q here is an honorary C word. The question. And the correction you often give to how we've understood it so far. And with that has come your incredible commitment to take that question and take that correction and to feel that you are charged in your life with that, and that's how you're able to charge others. I find this whole process alarming. This is about it. You can't move, you can't go away from it. And this is why you have such a tremendous ability to change others. So mazel tov to you. And, turn to your chavruta. So here, these are all these T's that came to me, lying in bed thinking about it. The words don't pronounce it that way. Your intensity in learning. It's a T in the middle. Your intensity in learning. Okay? In facing issues both theoretical and practical. You have a tremendous desire to search for the truth. You lament there's other ways of doing it, but you have a tremendous desire, this holy grail, mixed by religious metaphors, finding what shot is. So two word, but what shot is. And you search for that. And then once you have shot, all your dim-boom, your stuttering, your changes into clarity. You have a beautiful Hasmachah. You explain things in a terrific way once you understand it. The Ramban says that Ten Nisavim has the whole thing there. Vakabel HaTorah al bi'ura, to get it clear, to get it right, to understand Pshat. This is a tremendous koyach. And when you have it, I always know when you've reached that point, and all of a sudden, the sober person bursts into a smile. You have a delicious smile. See, I got it. Smile. Avi, so we've spoken about this. For me, you were a Canadian hockey player. You're the what's that position? Defenseman. The defenseman sees the entire play. Very much a strategic thinker in many ways, especially in Torah, especially in education. You see what's happening. You see it almost this fast action, almost in slow motion. You're a strategic thinker, not a tactician. And you love the clash that happens. You love it when you knock them down, and you knock them down, you're in play. And you have a tremendous appreciation when you yourself are knocked down. Because it's great. You get up with a smile, and you're ready to be back in the throw. This is why you have tremendous kayach in your teaching. You know you're learning, but you're teaching because you take them into the play, into the impact, and you're willing to take the blow, and you love it, and you know how it's all moving together. You have a fear, and here's the fear. The fear is that you won't have an impact, that it won't come through, that actually there'll be a feint, and you'll go careening off, or the student won't accept that body blow, which is an emotional blow that you're bringing to them, and what can happen. So that's the risk. That's the risk. It's tremendous kayach. Ayal. Think of you as such an incredible scam artist. People are thinking it's going to get better than that. I don't know what to think. Your ease in engaging people, You set up situations that they don't know they're being engaged. They don't know that as their minds are being opened. Very good word. You're very good at that. So when their minds are getting open, you're also opening their hearts. And then when their hearts are getting open, you bring them back to their minds. This is what you do. You're a double threat. I say you bring them, no one knows this is happening. You pick their pockets, you pick their heart, you pick their minds, and then you hand it back to them. Beautifully purified, elevated, but real. As you hand it back to them, you do the third threat, which to me is the most amazing part. Man, you said it. I didn't do anything. It was you. I didn't say a word. It was you. I'm just here. I'm just sitting here. It's tremendous kaya. This is called transformation. Continue to have mouse. Hasmachah. So I want to say that Tekes, why I like this group. You go part of this group. The rest who were part. Tekes, because I come from the south side of Chicago, these are stand-up guys. Stand-up guys. You know, they stand with each other. They stand behind each other. If necessary, they go in front of each other. That's what a stand-up guy is. And you stand up for Judaism, you stand up for Torah, you stand up for your Talmudim, you stand up for things that are right. Okay, that's it. And you will pay the price for being stand-up guys. Okay. That's the way it works. It's okay. It's a good way of being. So right now I have you have Yossi there. Let's we can take it out of the. Okay. This is all of you can take a look at it afterwards. Suitable for framing, handwritten, wonderful software. So Rabbi Yosef David, would you please come? Let me give you the smicha, and with it is the responsibility of raising the next generation. Thank you. This is a kid. Now I got to do it. Right. Who do you have there? You have Matt? Yeah. Okay. I signed it, right? No, really. I'm serious about it. Yeah, that's it. I signed it. Rav Matityahu. Sviel. Okay. Commitment to the proper kingdom. Oh, proper kingdom. Put the two single guys over there. Right? I said? Oh, you want to give me the pen? Then, okay. Okay, talk the talk, walk the walk, nothing more. And and then we had a wonderful event in which
Oh, yeah, right.
yeah, what's your middle name?
Chen.
What?
Chen.
Ayal Chen. And I signed it. Ayal Chen could not be in Eretz Yisrael, but his parents came. They were wonderful. They were wonderful, and they accepted it. And this is the documentary proof they were. They were, so I made sure they. And this is what you'll continue to do. And so really, I'm giving this back, giving your parents back to you, giving the sniffle back to you. And frame it, hang it up, and continue to work. We sing again?
Sing again. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. For anybody who would like, we'll dot and Mari up there. If any of you also like, there are many goodies to be had. Have a good evening.
Mazel tov. Beautiful strategic vision plan. Yeah. Beautiful.